I am riding, and the road is stretching out in front of me like a long, honest line. The wind is steady, the engine hums beneath me, and for once, everything feels clear. When you are moving this fast, you cannot hide from your thoughts. They rise up, loud and impossible to ignore. People think the ride is about freedom or adrenaline. But for me, it is where the truth comes out. This is where I finally make sense of what happened to my family, to my brother, and to me. Every mile I pass reminds me that some paths look exciting at first, but lead you straight into disaster, while others seem boring, slow, and ordinary, yet quietly carry you towards safety and peace. This is the road where I learned that lesson, and this is the story of how it unfolded. I have spent most of my life feeling like money, loyalty, and fairness meant something very different in my family than they did in the real world. My parents gave my twin brother the entirety of their life savings so he could build his business from the ground up, while I had to take out student loans just to complete my college education. Now he is in prison for fraud, and my parents are asking me to cover his legal fees using the salary from the very boring job they once openly mocked. This situation did not appear suddenly or without warning. My family has always had a deeply troubled relationship with money, risk, and responsibility. For as long as I can remember, my parents were obsessed with quick success and high-risk opportunities that promised instant wealth. They never believed in slow, steady progress or building something gradually. Instead, they were constantly chasing the next big chance that they believed would completely transform their lives overnight. When I was a child, my father invested all of his savings into a business with a man he trusted as if he were a close friend. He truly believed this venture would make him wealthy and secure our family's future. He spoke about it with complete confidence, as though success was guaranteed. However, the business was failing from the very beginning. There were no profits, only increasing debt and financial strain. By the time my father realized something was seriously wrong, his business partner had disappeared and left the country. Abandoning all financial responsibility behind, my father lost everything he had worked for. Years of savings vanished in an instant. My parents were devastated, and our family struggled financially for a long time afterward. My father had to rebuild his life from nothing. Most people would become cautious after such an experience, but my parents did the opposite. They remained stuck in the same mindset, still believing that the next big opportunity was just around the corner. Over the years, my mother tried one get-rich-quick scheme after another, many of them pyramid-style businesses where she had to purchase products and recruit new members. Each time, she began full of excitement and hope, convinced this would finally be the breakthrough. Each time, it ended in disappointment and loss. My father continued to trust any risky opportunity that came his way. Even as a child, I could see that their approach to money was unstable and unrealistic. I did not want that kind of life. I wanted stability, structure, and security. I focused on my education, worked extremely hard, and eventually earned a partial scholarship to college. I was proud of myself and expected my parents to be proud as well. Instead, they were disappointed when I chose to study computer science. They called it boring, ordinary, and uninspiring. They wanted me to study business and become an entrepreneur like them. That was never my dream. I did not want constant stress, uncertainty, and financial risk. I wanted a steady career, a predictable income, and a peaceful life. At the same time, my twin brother was finishing high school. Unlike me, he struggled academically and did not get into college. Instead, he decided to start a business with no real plan, experience, or training. I warned him that this was risky, but he did not listen, and neither did my parents. They praised him for being bold and visionary, refusing to see his decision as reckless. Then came the moment that changed everything. Instead of helping me pay the remaining balance of my college tuition, my parents invested their entire remaining retirement savings into my brother's business. I was shocked and deeply hurt. When I confronted them, they told me they would only consider helping me financially if I changed my degree. Otherwise, I was completely on my own. I had no choice but to take out student loans. That experience permanently changed how I viewed my parents. Over time, I watched them continue to pour money and support into my brother, even when his business was clearly failing. They eventually took out a mortgage on their own home just to keep funding him. Their favoritism was not limited to money. When my brother brought his girlfriend home, my mother gave him her grandmother's heirloom ring for a future proposal. She never offered me anything of that significance. Slowly, I accepted that in their eyes, my brother would always come first. Eventually, I distanced myself from them and went very low contact to protect my emotional well-being. I built a stable and fulfilling life. I have a steady job I am proud of, a loving partner who supports me, and a calm home with our dog. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. Then one week, I saw my brother on the local news. He had been arrested for scamming people out of thousands of dollars through a fraudulent investment scheme. He had lied, borrowed money under false pretenses, and attempted to flee the country before being caught. I was shocked, but not entirely surprised. I did not reach out to my parents. I was angry because I believed this was the direct result of their years of blind support and refusal to hold him accountable. A few days later, my father called me. He asked whether I knew what had happened to my brother. I told him plainly that I did. By that point, it was not exactly a secret to anyone who lived around here. He then asked if he and my mother could come over to my place so we could talk face to face. I told him I was busy. That was technically true, but the bigger truth was that I simply was not ready to sit across from my parents again, especially without knowing what they wanted from me. Still, my father would not let it go. He insisted that whatever this was, it mattered more than any work I could possibly be doing. He said the conversation could not wait and that it absolutely had to happen in person. Even then, I refused. I told him directly that if he had something to say, he could say it over the phone. I was not going to change my mind. Over the years, I have had to build very firm boundaries just to stay emotionally steady and to heal from everything I went through. This was one of those moments where I knew I had to hold my ground. I am not the same woman I used to be. I deserve peace, and I am not willing to sacrifice that just because my past suddenly wants to show up at my doorstep. That was when my father told me he was very disappointed in me. He went on to say that he was hurt because I had not even called to check on him and my mother after my brother's arrest. He said that while they were going through such a difficult time, I had stayed wrapped up in my own life as if I did not care. He accused me of being cold and shutting my family out during what he called their lowest moment. He kept repeating that we were still family, as if that single word was supposed to erase everything that had happened between us over the years. The way he said it made it sound like I was the one failing them, like I was the cruel one, like I was turning my back on them when they needed me most. It felt deeply unfair, considering how often I had been overlooked and unsupported. I tried once more to decline politely. I told him I did not believe I could say anything that would actually make the situation better, but he still would not stop pushing. He accused me of being insensitive and emotionally distant. He said that even if I did not approve of what my brother had done, I should still stand beside them as a united family. But honestly, I was just exhausted. I had watched them coddle and enable my brother for years while I built my entire life on my own. They had repeatedly placed all their hopes, money, and attention on him, and now that everything had collapsed, I was expected to drop everything and comfort them. Eventually, I agreed to meet them, mostly because I realized they would not leave me alone otherwise. As soon as we sat down together, they made their intentions clear. Within minutes, they asked me to help pay for my brother's legal fees. They pointed out that I had a stable job and was doing well financially, conveniently forgetting that my father had once mocked that very job as boring and unambitious. They admitted they had already poured all their money into my brother and his failing business and now did not have enough left to hire the best lawyers. What frustrated me the most was that they were still in complete denial about how serious his actions were. Throughout our conversation, they kept defending him, insisting that he had good intentions and that people simply misunderstood him. I told them firmly that I was not going to pay for his lawyers. This was not my responsibility. They had chosen again and again to support him financially while leaving me to handle everything on my own. My mother begged me, saying they had even postponed their retirement for 10 years because of him and that now they were relying on me. My father slammed his hand on the table and accused me of abandoning my family. They even tried to shame me by saying relatives were gossiping about them and that I needed to help save their reputation. I stayed calm. I told them that I still loved my brother and felt bad for what he was going through. But that did not mean he should escape the consequences of his actions after deceiving so many people. When they kept arguing, I stood up and walked out without looking back. Several months later, my brother was sentenced to 6 years in prison. My parents had borrowed money and hired very expensive lawyers, but none of it changed the outcome. The evidence against him was overwhelming. I went to visit him once. I had hoped that prison might have humbled him or made him reflect on his choices, but it did not. He sat across from me as if nothing had changed, instead of expressing remorse. He talked about how he had almost managed to leave the country in time and how things could have turned out differently in that moment. I realized he still had not learned anything, and as painful as that was, it confirmed for me that I had made the right decision to protect my own life, my peace, and my future.